Okay, 7th grade, here we are, lesson 3, chapter 3, going quick through this chapter. I am going to tell you this is the lesson about subtracting integers. And if you are not confident in adding integers, you need to stop and go back to lesson 2. Rewatch that video, learn adding integers, because that is the biggest part of this new video, believe it or not. So that's an important piece. If you don't understand that, you will not do a great job with this lesson. Make sure you know how to add before you subtract. Okay? So, first and only note of lesson 3, when subtracting integers, always be sure to add a line and change the sign. Super, super important note here. Highlight it, bold it, color it in, put a sticker next to it, write this on a note card. Make sure this is the most important note in 3.3. And basically what it says is we're going to do a little jingle, add a line, change a sign. But what it means is we're going to take every subtraction problem and we are going to change it into an addition problem. And then we're going to follow the addition rules, which is why it's so important that we all know how to do 3.2. Okay, add a line, change the sign. Add a line, change the sign. Add a line, change the sign. Let's do some example problems. Number 1 is 4 minus 7. Most of you already know this is negative 3. These are one of the easier types of subtraction problems, right? When the first number is positive and the second number is positive and you just have to subtract. Let's see what we do here to solve this problem. I'm going to rewrite it to give us a little more space. So the problem says 4 minus 7. And did you hear me say the word minus? Minus is our go word. When we say the word minus, that's going to trigger our brain to add a line and change the sign. And what that means is we add a line to the minus sign and we make it a plus sign. And then we take the next number, the number after the plus sign, and we change its sign. So right now this is a positive 7. We need to change its sign to make it a negative 7. And now we have a new math problem, 4 plus negative 7. These two problems are exactly the same. They mean the same thing. Subtracting is the same as adding a negative. So now we can follow our 3.2 rules. We have a positive and a negative. There's more negatives, so my answer will be negative. We're going to make 0 pairs because we've got some positives and some negatives, and that tells me I need to subtract. 7 minus 4 is 3, and my final answer is negative 3. Okay, easy enough. Like I said, you probably already knew that answer, so let's see a little bit of a trickier one. Negative 2 minus 5. A lot of people might be thinking the answer to this is negative 3 as well. It's not. Okay, I'm going to write this one a little bigger to give us more space. And I'm going to read this problem to you. Negative 2 minus 5. Remember the word minus was our go word. So as soon as I see the word minus, or I say the word minus, that's when I start with my add a line and change the sign. Basically, it tells me to never touch this guy right here. Leave the negative 2 alone. Go to where you said minus. So let me read it again to you. Negative 2 minus 5. I said minus right here, so I'm going to have to add a line to make that plus, and then I change the sign of the next number. This 5 is a positive 5, so I need to change its sign to make it a negative 5. And my new math problem is negative 2 plus negative 5. Negatives plus negatives, we're going to end up with a negative answer, and 2 plus 5 is 7. Negative 7 is your final answer there. Okay, stick with me here, guys. I know this is something new. This one's 11 minus negative 18. So here's where I said minus. This is where I have to start my add a line, change the sign process. So 11 minus negative 18. I'm going to add a line to make that a plus sign, and then I change the sign of the next number. Well, this one's already negative, so I still have to change it. When I change the sign, I change it from a negative to a positive. So this problem just became really, really easy. This is 11 plus positive 18. Both of them are positive. That gets me a positive answer. 11 plus 18 is 29. And I'm done. Number 4, negative 3 minus negative 1. Here's where I said minus. That's where I add a line, change the sign. Minus becomes a plus. Negative 1 becomes a positive 1. And now this problem is negative 3 plus 1. More negatives than positives, so I get a negative answer. Negatives here, positives here, so I'm making 0 pairs, and that tells me to subtract. 3 minus 1 is 2. Stick with me. You're doing great. 2 more here. Okay? 46 minus 50. You heard the magic word. Minus, that's our go word. Minus tells me to add a line and change the sign of the next number. This was a positive 50. Now it's going to be a negative 50. I've got more negatives than positives, so I've got a negative answer there. I've got negatives and positives, so I have to make 0 pairs and subtract. 50 minus 46 is 4. So my final answer is negative 4. And number 6, last but not least here, before we go into a word problem, 15 minus negative 10. Minus is my go word, so I have to add a line to change that to plus, and then change the sign of the next number. The opposite of negative 10 is positive 10, so this is a very easy one. Again, positive 15 plus positive 10 gets me a positive answer. Add them together, and I get 25. Okay, remember how I said those chapter 3, lesson 2 addition rules are really important here. I wasn't fibbing. Last one. This is a famous test and quiz question for me, so definitely pay attention. A scuba diver is 48 meters below sea level. So that is going to be a negative 48 when we talk about this one, right? 48 meters below sea level, all the way down here. A rock climber is 1,510 meters above sea level. So that's going to be a positive number. 1,500 meters above sea level. I'm going to put a little plus sign there. And then it asks, what's the vertical difference between them? So the difference between them means we're going to take our highest point, our rock climber, and we're going to find the difference, which means we're going to subtract. And we're going to subtract away the scuba diver. Okay, so my rock climber is the highest point, 1,510, and I'm going to subtract. That's what it means by the difference. I'm going to subtract away the depth of the scuba diver. So I'm going to subtract away the negative 48 meters. Okay. So this looks familiar, right? This looks like a problem that we just did. I think number 6 looked kind of like this. So 1,510, my highest point minus my lowest point, which is negative 48. So minus tells me to add a line and change the sign, and this really becomes an addition problem. 1,510 plus 48 is 1,558 meters, and that's the distance between them. Okay, that's the distance between them. And that should make a little bit of sense if here's sea level and here's my diver underneath the water. I've got this distance, okay, and then I've got my mountain, and I've got my happy person up here on top of the mountain, and there's that person's distance. The difference between them would be adding this distance plus that distance. And that's why this becomes an addition problem. Okay, so ask 1,000 questions tomorrow in class. I'm happy to answer them. This is super important to me. Such a great lesson here. Go ahead and do your practice problems. There aren't a ton of them. I think you're going to do great.